Thank you very much. That's helpful. Frank?
Yeah, I'm Frank Carroll. I'm at the University of Massachusetts, Boston. I want to make a comment on several things that have been said over the course of the day and try to put some things in perspective. You know, one thing we heard at the very beginning of the day is that younger people with disabilities tend to be have different kinds of experiences with the service system than do older people who are eligible for slightly different kind of services, or offered through somewhat different agencies, but are through it's often Medicaid funding, but through a somewhat different channel. And one of we also heard that the disability groups don't always work well together, and that there's a need for the younger people with disabilities, when they mobilize politically, to work with older people. Now, first of all, on that theme, that's not a new theme. I mean, when I was introduced to this field 35 years ago, I was exposed to an advocate who was trying to bring together the disability community with older people. So it's clearly kind of something difficult to do there. On the younger people with disabilities, we have a stronger model for what we should be doing on their behalf. The vision is that younger people with disabilities should be able to experience normal lives. And normal life includes employment. I mean, we heard today the language, the people of working age. So, and we heard about personal assistance services supporting people in the workplace. So that to some extent, we're actually trying to implement that vision and using that as a standard for judging services. When it comes to older people, we don't have the same kind of vision of what personal assistance services should be doing for them. We're still operating in a framework in which the nursing home is the norm, and we're trying to do for them in the community the kinds of things that are legitimate to do for people in a nursing home. And that is actually a very constrained view of what life ought to be like for older people with disabilities. I mean, you could take the notion that an older person with a disability should, when we judge, that person should be able to participate in community life. It need not mean participate in gainful employment, but there's a lot to community life other than gainful employment. And to the extent that we don't measure that, we don't have any documentation of that, and the kind of the framework that underlies the Medicaid program, which is, if that's the most important source of financing, that doesn't come into play at all. I thought, earlier when we heard from Mitch and talking about unmet need, and I should say that's a really important step forward in the discourse that he talks about unmet need. He's justifying personal assistance services, measuring their adequacy in terms of unmet need. That's a giant step forward, because it wasn't so long ago that people were justifying personal assistance services on the basis of preventing nursing home placement. So that's a giant step forward. But there is we should be thinking about a larger framework that includes, for older people and for everybody, about, well, just what the vision is of normal life for them in the community and how to operationalize that.
Yeah.
So in a certain sense, there's been substantial progress that has been made, but there's more that we need to do in conceptualizing it, and then we certainly need better data that to enable us to kind of really document the extent to which we're accomplishing what we need to do. Thank you.
Those are excellent points, Frank. Anybody on the panel want to respond?
I just, I want to give credit where credit is due, and I want to point out that I've been able to do the work on unmet need largely is through the work of Susan Allen and Vince Moore, who I think were pretty instrumental as well with Bill Scanlon in getting those questions into the health interview survey. And so there is, I think, a rich thread in the literature that's emerging on unmet need and its consequences through that.
Okay, other comments? Okay, here's one back here.
Well, and I'm from Texas. We
Could
are
you
a
say that again?
Katie Capel. I'm from Austin, Texas. I run a 30-year-old nonprofit personal assistance providing agency, and I came here hoping to get some ideas on how to recruit and retain enough personal attendants to meet the needs we already have. And so now I'm even more nervous about meeting the needs in the future. We are a state that does not require workman's compensation, and we have no way to afford it on the reimbursement rates that we get. So we have an accident policy for our employees and have been meeting their on-the-job injury needs that way. The other thing that I think is a problem is that if you want to train your workforce and to bring them up to a better quality level, that's difficult when the reimbursement rates don't take into account any hours of salary for paying attendants to do their training. So you're in the position of trying to get people come in to be trained at no pay, or in our case, we pay them, but it's not included in our reimbursement that we get from our personal assistance contracts. We have about 300 clients on Medicaid or SSI. And then the other thing that I wanted to mention was that despite a pay rate of about $6.34 an hour, 75% of our attendants have worked for us for over a year. And I would be interested for someone to do a study on why people stay as personal attendant employees, given the working conditions that most of them are under.
Okay, thank you. Very good comments. Anybody want to respond? Steve? Anyone?
Well, we discussed this privately, and I didn't have very much to say on the subject except the obvious thing of pay them more and you'll get more workers, but obviously it's not under your control. Any advocates here who would like to
Anybody else?
comment? Is Mike Oxford in the, I don't see him.
Okay, in the back, Teresa.
Well, this is on behalf of Colonel Jackson, the Governor's Council, who would like to see focused research to learn about the experiences, the lived experiences of past users as employers. As he said, send us the form and we'll fill it out, and then you can hear from us directly.
Okay,
Okay.
all right.
And the example was?
I've had about 150 in the last 2 years. And no, I'm not a difficult client.
All right.